All right, and this should be going. All right, so if, guys, go ahead, screen's off, laptop's closed. I do actually mean that when I say it. Go ahead and take a look at one of the big screens. We'll have our little chat. So if you were to, and you don't need to yet, you'll get a chance, look at the spreadsheet, you'll see that we are continuing with the new unit 3. Again, it's always going to be my dashboard to current unit, or current, yeah, I guess it goes to current unit. And it's we have lesson 3 and lesson 4. It's not, I don't think we'll technically get through both of them today, but we're going to kind of introduce them together. And it might be 2 days on both of them. Not sure if that makes sense, but we'll go with it. And if you were, and when you do go to the unit, you will see that lesson 3 and lesson 4 are now visible. And the project is you are going to design your first app. It, of course, will be a simple app, mostly just to get you used to and prove that you know how to use some very basic interface concepts. And if you were to be able to, and when I make every lesson in here visible, you'll see that the project continues down around lesson 8, 9, and 10, but it's split up by 5, 6, and 7, which are needed to actually complete the app, to actually do the coding and programming of the app. The first part is just the design aspect and the planning, definitely important. And starting with lesson 3, there are no bubbles for lesson 3. The only aspect to bubble 3 is the planning guide, which, as always, I want you to get the version, when I say go, get the version from the spreadsheet, the app planning guide. Now, the reason why you have a worksheet is because part of the planning guide requires you to do some hand sketching, pencil and paper type of thing. It works a lot better than trying. People, please stop. People invariably will try to do some, insert some arrows, and it ends up looking way worse than what we're looking for. We'll go over this in a second, but why you have a worksheet in front of you is, come on, picture, please pop up. Where are you? Why is that not there? I need that. There we go. You're going to do a rough sketch. We'll talk about the details of what on your paper, and take a picture of it and insert it into this this area on your digital copy on your Google Doc. So in a second, after we go over this, the first thing you're going to do is open up the planning guide from the spreadsheet on the row for today's date, and make a copy and put your name at the beginning, copy of, okay, I actually do want you to put name, date, and period in the Google Doc, even though it will be in the file name. And let's complete this. So what is the project going to be? You are going to create an app that teaches your classmates, or I don't know, informs about some topic that you find interesting. Along the way, you'll learn how to use many features in App Lab, as well as skills that will help you build more apps throughout the class. You're going to submit 2 things, this planning guide, as well as the actual app in App Lab. Requirements: your app needs to have at least 3 screens And we'll talk about how that works, but this is essentially the key component of this app, is that you are including user interface elements, buttons, and pictures and things like that, clicking on things that has the app changed to a different screen that has different buttons and different pictures and that sort of thing. So you're controlling how the app moves through its various content. You're going to include images, audio, and text. The audio is just going to be, you can insert the provided sound clips from App Lab, just sort of the generic, positive sound and da, 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 that sort of thing. Just like it's the audio equivalent of the icons, just the generic everything sounds. Your app will include a clear, or will have a clear and easy user interface. And hold on, let me do no dead ends. Okay, and clearly communicate information about your topic, and dead ends. Code is cleanly written, and free of errors. No dead ends. Okay, so as you get into creating new screens and controlling the interface, the flow, allowing the user to change to different screens based on how you design the app, you can't have a scenario, and this will be a rule for the entire year, you can't have a scenario where the app switches to a new screen that can't either go back to the previous screen, or you can have it in a loop, sort of, where it's like you go from one screen to the next screen to the next screen, and that screen can go back to the first screen. You don't have to have a home button on every screen, but you have to have a way to navigate away from any screen. So it's not like you go from screen 1 to 2 to 3, and then there's nothing at screen 3. They're just looking at it, and the only way out is to hit reset and run. That's like a major rule that will be on everything you produce, assuming it has more than one screen, which most of the apps will. If it's just one screen, well, there you go. It's not a dead end. Okay, steps: planning. Plan the topic and content, plan the flow. Okay, that's where you're going to sketch, design your app, user interface using the planning guide, and design your program in App Lab. Okay, step 1, plan, come up with 3 ideas / topics that you might want to do this on. You may already have your idea set, but I promise you it's better to plan things, or to come up with multiple ideas before you move forward. You may come up with a better idea. You also may get part of the way through the next step and realize your idea isn't going to work well for this, or it might be too ambitious, and you come back and choose one of your other ideas. Okay, and even if this is part of the worksheet, do it. Okay, step 2, choose the topic. Okay, choose one of your ideas, or I suppose technically a different idea if you have 4 and you want to put one there. Okay, and you're going to describe what your app is going to do. You can have just a simple informative app that goes from different screens to other screens. There was an example of the bird quiz, which is a little more complex, some sort of quiz situation where if the user clicks on the correct answer or image or something like that, it goes to a you're right, or it goes to the next question. And if they click on something wrong, it goes to a you lose screen, that sort of thing. A little more complex, but probably more rewarding. And so there you go. You're going to describe your topic. Okay, step 3, design phase, which I would say all of you should be done with this today, at least get past this phase. You are going to, on your yellow worksheet, which those of you watching this after the date or trying to do this from home, there is the worksheet handout is actually at the end of this, but I don't expect anyone to print this out. Why is this like this? To print this out on their own. I just put this in here so I have a place to put it. Why is this like this? Okay, but it doesn't really matter because you're going to do a Google Doc copy. And the way you're going to submit your hand sketch worksheet is by taking a picture of it and inserting it into this table here. Shouldn't be too hard. And your plan, looking at the requirements, which are up here at the top, but also down in the rubric, are you need at least 3 screens. Okay, you can have more, you can have, I suppose, unlimited, and the sketch or the yellow worksheet that I gave you has 4, because I think that's probably a little more common. But the idea of the worksheet is that you are going to sketch out your ideas, okay? For each screen, you're going to do a layout with a label and images and buttons and sort of situations. The buttons, or I guess for that bird quiz one, which was in lesson 1, it's also, well, it'll be late. The sample, if you go to lesson 4, the sample app is, or sample prototype is the bird quiz one, which don't ever copy an example exactly, but the basic idea is a valid option of the idea of a, wow, this is slow. Try reloading. Of a multi-screen app where in the event a user clicks on a button, or in the bird quiz app on a picture, you would have which screen it would go to, depending on which direction. Okay, and so you're going to sketch out your layout and the building phase for any of the elements. Okay, so you remember from the last lesson where, you know, we were dragging out icons or images and copying them in, or making different labels or things like that. If the element doesn't have any interaction, like a label is just going to be the title of the screen or the title of the app, you don't have to give it a hyper specific element ID, but if it's a button that the user is going to click on, you have to give it a good element and a good ID, which again, the best plan is to name things, name button or name anything a good name followed by the type of element that it is. Okay, so like play button or home icon or parrot image, that sort of thing. Okay, so for any of the elements that are going to be interacted with, you need to give them, you're going to plan out the element ID before, this is before you even get to App Lab. This is after you sketch your screens. You are going to decide on element ID names for anything that is interacted with, at least. Give it a good ID, say how it's going to be interacted with. Okay, for the most part, it's going to be click, and then describe what's going to happen. Okay, almost everything is going to be. How's it going? Yeah, all right. Give me a second. Almost everything is going to have some sort of what happens. The screen changes to the to quiz screen 2 or something like that. When you do get into actually designing the app, and this will be part of the later lessons where we actually get into programming, the different screens will have, wow, this is going so slow. The different screens, the screens will have ID names, which the default again will be, screen 1, screen 2, whatever, but you're going to change those names to home screen or quiz screen 1 or game over screen or something like that. It will make things a lot easier later on. So ideally, you get to that point, okay, by the end of today. And if you do get to that point, that is when you would go on to lesson 4, because the next phase, testing phase, you need some sort of app to test. In lesson 4, you can take a look at the bird quiz and how that works. It doesn't have any of the code in the background or screen names and that sort of thing, but this is what your sketches would look like, or this is what the sketches would look like for the bird app. It doesn't have the element IDs, but it does show, okay, if the ostrich is, you're on quiz screen 1, the ostrich is clicked, which is the correct answer, it goes on to the next quiz screen, so on. You are going to go to lesson 4, bubble 2, and this is where you are actually going to build your screens. Again, after you complete the element IDing. And here is, wow. You'll get a blank app lab, or at least an app lab with the bare minimum of coding blocks, but you aren't going to do any coding in lesson 4. You are just going to do some designing, where this is where you're going to, why does the toolbox look different? That's very strange that I now have. Okay, well, maybe that's a new thing. I don't know. You are going to drag out, labels and change things, and maybe choose a theme, make it look pretty. And the key difference is that, so it starts out with just screen 1, which is, all we've used so far, but you are going to need at least 3 screens, which work as their own sort of scene with their own elements and so on, which is why you're going to go to new screen. And the default name for the new screen is screen 2. So we have screen 1 and screen 2, and they will all keep their stuff separate. And, having whatever, but the default names for each screen 1 and screen 2 and screen 3 are not good enough. When you're on screen 1, you can click on the background and you can see we're working on screen 1. Give it a useful name like home screen. Okay, now this screen is called home screen, and the second screen will be I don't know, quiz screen 1 or info screen 1, something like that, and continue making it look pretty, putting all the elements on there. You know how to do images at this point. You click on the element, and one of its properties is the image, where you can do copy image address or choose a downloaded image or an icon, and continue developing or designing your plan. Okay, so I don't expect you to get through all of that today, but just to see where we're going, we're probably going to do this again, but sort of combined. Okay, so if you have any questions, let me know. I'm going to stop the video there.